Who would have thought? All it took was Jaden Daniels returning for me to start loving football again. I don't know about you, but it's starting to feel like 2024 again. Let's talk about it. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another episode of Bleeding BNG. To give you a timestamp as I do for all of my episodes, we are the wee morning of October 6th, 2025, and we're about 12 hours removed from our Washington Commanders putting belt to ass to the Los Angeles Chargers in Los Angeles to the tune of 27-10 in total dominant fashion. Total dominant fashion. At least for the second half. At least for the second half. Because I do think that this was a tale of two halves. This one was a tale of two halves. But before we get too deep into this video, you already know what I'm going to say. Be sure to comment. Be sure to like. Be sure to subscribe. On the way to 3,000 subscribers. And I cannot do it without your help. So go ahead, smash that subscribe button. Smash that like button. Flood the comment section so you're not missing any of this content on your Washington Commanders from us over here at Bleeding BNG. And without further ado, man, let's get into the game. So like I said, a 3-score win. We beat the Chargers by 17 points, but we scored 27 unanswered points because we did fall down 10-0 early in the game. And you know where we got to start. Well, we always start when he's playing with the burgundy and golden boy. Y'all see him right there. Number 5, the burgundy and golden boy, Jaden Daniels, because Jaden Daniels is back, y'all. Jaden Daniels is back. Now, I know that if you've been checking this out on social media, I know the other day I kind of raised some flags or raised the alert or rang the bell a little bit because I said that his knee brace looked big as hell from that practice footage that I saw on Thursday. But it didn't seem to bother him a bit once he got into a rhythm on this game yesterday. If I read the stat line, 15 for 26, 231 yards, 1 passing touchdown, and 39 rushing touchdowns. And I said it in the cold open. I alluded to it in the cold opener, but I got to get back into it. Football is just much better to be a Washington Commander fan when Jaden Daniels is playing football. These couple of weeks, especially this last week, after we got belt to ass put to us by the Atlanta Falcons, it was feeling like my time as a Washington football fan prior to 2024. You know, people questioning the defense, people wondering when Jaden's ever going to get back. And it was just a whole lot of questions. And I was like, man, I really wish that I could get some 2024 vibes back and have me enjoying football again. Because I really don't want this season to be off the rails by week 5. Because I thought that had the potential of happening, not only if we lost to the Los Angeles Chargers, but in the fashion that we lost to. If they ran up the scoreboard like the Atlanta Falcons did, I was really going to start considering not having any hope for this season. I was really starting to consider not having any hope on this season if the San Diego Chargers was about to pick a number for how much they wanted to score yesterday. And after their first couple of possessions, it looked like that. But then Jaden Daniels arrived. He did start off slow. And as I mentioned, he had to get into a rhythm. And when I read off that stat line, the stat line wasn't anything crazy. This is not a top 5 Jaden Daniels game out of the 20 games that he's played so far in his career. This isn't one at all. I'd argue it's top 10, though. Because once he got acclimated, this is a guy that missed over 3.5 weeks, and we had to understand that. And it looked like that over the first couple of possessions. But then he changed his cleats. Like Lil Bow Wow and like Mike, and he turned into 2024 Jaden Daniels. He turned into the Jaden Daniels that stole our hearts last year, that captured our hearts last year. And I know I said that it was when he changed his cleats. You know, I had to make a little like Mike comparison. But I honestly believe when he hit Jalen Lane on that 3rd and 16, when we were down 10-0 in the second quarter, I said, it's on. Oh, it's on like Donkey Kong in this bitch. Because you can see the confidence being instilled in him after that. And he just started letting it fly. That's when we see the 50-yard bomb to Luke McCaffrey, which I would argue is probably a top 5 Jada throw so far in his career. Definitely a top 1 Luke McCaffrey catch. Then you see him letting it rip to Deebo Samuel on those throws, those over routes and those crossing routes right before halftime. Jaden Daniels is so good. He got Deebo Samuel looking like a traditional wide receiver 1 in 2025. Now, I love Deebo Samuel as a player, but I argue that Deebo Samuel never looked like a traditional wide receiver 1. Even the years when he had 1,300 and 1,400 yards, a lot of those yards came on manufactured touches. I don't remember the last time I saw him win downfield at this high of a rate. Leaving to San Francisco, though, they told you that he was washed. But what they got to understand in San Francisco is that they dealing with a Brock Purdy, and we dealing with a Jayden Daniels. It's levels to this quarterback shit. It's levels to this quarterback shit. Because while I think Marcus Mariota held it down, I still think Marcus Mariota is the best backup quarterback in the NFL. Today shows you all the reasons why we're not contenders and playoff contenders unless we got number 5 back there under center week in and week out. Because once he got in a rhythm, it looked like Monday Night Football against the Cincinnati Bengals last year. And he was quarterbacking. Something a lot of the Jayden Daniels naysayers had to say about him prior to us drafting him in the pre-draft process. It's like, when he doesn't have his legs, bro, he's cooked. I even had somebody, when I posted the tweet about his knee brace, was like, oh, nah, he's going to have to do some real QBing now. What the fuck was he doing in his 19 other career games? That was fake QBing? Y'all was acting like we was running gimmick plays for him like he was RG3. But guess what? I hope the person that said that in my mentions watched yesterday's game. Because I only got one question for you, buddy. Was that real QBing? Was that quarterbacky enough for you? Was it quarterbacky enough for you, good sir? Because outside of even just the arm, which was the most impressive thing about Jayden Daniels' performance, he still shows that he's still Jayden Daniels. I ain't gonna lie, I kind of blamed the knee brace when he slipped at the end of either the first or the second drive in the first quarter. They came back later on the second half came, it was like that knee brace wasn't even there. Even the scrambles looked like 2024 Jayden Daniels. Now, I know it's not going to jump off the page to 39 rushing yards, but we got to understand most of that came in the second half. Once he got in the rhythm and once he got comfortable. But guess what? There was a reason why he was allowed to get in the rhythm and get comfortable. Because workhorse RB1 Bill has arrived, y'all. Workhorse running back Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt has arrived. I can care less about that committee now. Because when he goes for a performance with 16 touches, 150 total yards, 2 touchdowns, and 111 of those 150 total yards is straight rushing yards, oh yeah, it's up, it's stuck from here on out for the rest of the season. He's arrived. And if you were a real ball knower, you know Bill really been it since week 1. And I've been saying it all summer. I think that Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt has a chance of going down as the best 7th-round running back ever drafted in NFL history. And that's not too far-fetched. But he's on the right track, and he's having a hell of a start to his career for that claim. And if that does end up being true, oh, that's such a flex for Adam Peters. to draft the best 7th-round rookie running back of all time? Like right now, he's arguing with the likes of like Isaiah Pacheco. I know some of y'all are wondering like, oh, Terrell Davis, bro. Terrell Davis was a 6th-rounder. Terrell Davis was a 6th-rounder. But I just want to thank the NCAA for letting this amazing talent of a running back just live in the shadows, go unnoticed, and be our unhidden gem or our uncovered gem. Because with this type of talent, if he played more than one game, if Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt played 2 games in college, I think he might have jumped up a couple of rounds. Just because we see the type of game-breaking ability that he brings to the game each and every time that he's out there. Who knows? The next game that he played at Arizona, he could have went for 250 yards and would have been a national household name at that point. So I just want to thank the NCAA for screwing Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt Bill over. I know it didn't look bright, and I know it didn't help him in the moment. But look at where we at now, my boy. Look at where we at now. Workhorse running back one for the Washington Commanders. Bill has some elite traits, y'all. Like some real elite traits. And I'm not talking about just for a 7th-rounder. I'm talking about elite for any round pick. Top 10 in the NFL draft pick. Bill has some elite traits. The vision is real. The contact balance is real. When you see him struggle, all-pro Derwin James, all-pro safety Derwin James, like he was my little sister in the hole, and it turned that into a 30-yard game, I said, oh, yeah, this nigga's real. What the fuck is going on? He was having an outer body experience at that point. Bill's a stud, dog. I don't even know another way to put it. Bill's a stud. And I think I'm going to title this episode The Real Bill. Because he is ridiculous. And like I said, it's not just for a 7th-rounder. He's one of the best talents that we've had at the running back position since Clinton Portis. While I love Alfred Morris was a lot of the product of the scheme. Alfred Morris didn't have this type of juice coming out of the backfield. I argue he had the vision. I will argue that he had the vision. He did not have this type of juice coming out of the backfield. He didn't. And if you're not going to argue Alfred Morris, I feel like your case is pretty much shot at that point. But you're going to argue Ryan Terrain, Lake Seastruck, Fat Rob Kelly? No. It's been a while since I've seen this type of juice coming out of the Washington backfield. And the thing about it now is that it's coming from both your quarterback and your running back. When you have that type of dynamicism coming out of the backfield, you can compete with a lot of these high-flying offenses. And I don't know why. Maybe y'all can let me know why Cliff doesn't decide to run the ball until we're down by 2 scores. But I appreciate him sticking with the run today. I told y'all last week. Last week was a game where we needed to run the ball 35 to 40 times. Now, we didn't run the ball that much because we got away from our committee. But if I can see Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt, his touches even go from 16 to 20, I think the more the merrier. Because guess what? The reason that we've been told, or the narrative that's been pushed out, is that he hasn't been getting those RB1 workhorse reps because of the things that he's doing without the ball, like the pass blocking and things like that. His pass blocking looked fine to me today. And then when you saw what he did in the receiving game, having a 30-yard reception as well, the sky's the limit for Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt. Now, getting to the wide receivers. The Deebo Samuel revenge tour has continued. 8 for 96 and a touchdown. Winning everywhere on the field, like I said. Winning everywhere on the field. I'm going to say it now. And I hate to break it to y'all. And I hate to break it to the busted open for 17 crowd. Because I love 17. And this isn't a knock on Terry McLaurin. But I do not see any type of scenario where Terry McLaurin outproduces Deebo Samuel rest of the season. Now, I know he's missed a couple of games. I'm not even talking about the counting stats for the entire year. But over the course of these next 12 games that we play, I really don't see a scenario where Terry McLaurin can outproduce Deebo Samuel in those 12 games. Jayden Daniels and Deebo Samuel have real chemistry that we see week in and week out when both of those two guys are playing on the field. Shit, Deebo Samuel showed it winning downfield against Marcus Mariota last week. That's why I said I'm not necessarily saying that this is a knock on Terry McLaurin. But he missed so much time over the course of training camp that the quarterbacks were able to build a rapport with another uber athletic talent and Deebo Samuel. And it seems as if Jayden Daniels and Deebo Samuel hit the ground off running from where they left off in Green Bay when Jayden got hurt. 8 for 96 and a touchdown. Catching screens, winning downfield, running crosses. This looked like, I can't even say it looked like the Deebo Samuel from 2021 because I don't even remember him running this many routes. The real McCaffrey, Luke McCaffrey, has stepped up for the third week in a row. We are in the midst of the Luke McCaffrey breakout, y'all. One catch for 50 yards on a fucking dot from Jayden. On a fucking dot that I argue is a top 5 Jayden Daniels throw so far in his career. I told you he started to feel it and started to let that bitch fly. But a hell of a catch from Luke McCaffrey as well. Luke McCaffrey has had more production over the last 3 weeks than he had in his entire career prior to these last 3 weeks. Luke McCaffrey been the best McCaffrey in the NFL over the last 2 weeks. I know the 49ers, they spam Christian with touches, but Brad averaging like 2.5 yards a carry. Let's see what Luke do with 40 touches. So I never want to see a game when we give Luke McCaffrey 40 touches, but y'all know my point. Backed up in our own territory. I'm not sure. Was that third down? Jayden just let it fly. Perfect arc on the ball. Perfect accuracy. In the bucket. Luke, hands catch. I'd argue that he was getting interfered with. Y'all seen Buddy hand all up in his face. Catch eerily similar to De'Ami Brown's catch against the Detroit Lions last year. And I don't know. Y'all know I've asked the question. And he had a decent game last week, but he was back to being ass again this week. I don't know who it was. Matter of fact, yes, I do. I think I found out who zapped Frankie Louvu of his powers, of his football prowess. And I think it was Luke McCaffrey. Now, if that prowess went from one commander to another, that's a little more understandable than it just going to a random fugitive on the street. So if Luke was the one that zapped Frankie Louvu of his fucking powers, I can live with that. I've already mentioned the big 3rd and 16 catch by Jalen Lane. Jayden's day would have looked even more amazing if it wasn't for that dweeb ass nigga Chris Moore. That jag Chris Moore. Dropping another touchdown on a rollout where Jayden was evading guys, keeping his eyes downfield on a perfect throw that hit him in the chest. It hit him in the wrong spot. It hit him in his chest and his hands. You know, that's too much for Chris Moore. It was coming 5 miles per hour too fast for his jag ass. Messing up my man Jayden's highlight reel. Messing up my man Five's highlight reel. I think that the offensive line played amazing. Tunsil stonewalling shit all game. Lermy Tunsil has played like an all-pro since the Green Bay Packer game. And prior to that, Lermy Tunsil has given you one game that he hasn't been an all-pro type talent. That's what we expected to bring in when we traded those draft picks for him in the offseason. Once the new league year started. Tyler Biadasz out there moving them puppies on Bill's first touchdown, pulling. The movie star, the commercial star, Tyler Biadasz himself. If y'all haven't checked out Tyler Biadasz and Jayden Daniels and his mother's Campbell's Chuck E. Noodle soup commercial, go ahead and check that out Oscar-worthy performance by Tyler Biadasz, if I do say so himself. But guess what? What was them awards that John Madden gave out to the offensive lineman? Tyler Biadasz would have got that joint yesterday, other than an Oscar with the way that he was pulling and moving them puppies on that Bill Jacory Krosky-Merritt first touchdown. I said, okay, I see you, big sexy. I see you, big sexy. So I think that the offense answered the bell yesterday, especially in the second half. Now, this defense, it was a tale of two halves for this defense, in my honest opinion. It looked like they didn't have the answers most of the first half. It looked like these offensive coordinators were back to having Joe Witt in the Matrix. Once we fell down 10-0, we got Justin Herbert scrambling like he's prime Michael Vick. We got Ladd McConkey out there looking like prime Wes Welker. And then we fell down 10-0. And then the game changed. And then that game changed. With our guy, y'all know we named him Pro Bowl Quan over here, even though he's never made a Pro Bowl. But y'all know my projection this year, my prediction was that Quan Martin will be a Pro Bowl player this year. And while it hasn't gotten off to an amazing start, which some of y'all love to remind me in my mentions, let your apologies be as loud as the disrespect. Because Quan Martin's forced fumble on Quentin Johnson changed the entire momentum, changed the entire tide of that game yesterday. We don't win that game yesterday without Quan Martin's forced fumble on Quentin Johnson. Y'all got to understand, we were either going down 13 or 17 points at that point. And I know I talked about how that offense was back clicking. I don't know if we could have came back down from 3 scores. And while Quan hasn't been amazing in coverage, he hasn't. I'll be the first to admit it because I know I'm objective over here at Bleeding B&G. One thing that you cannot say that Quan Martin hasn't done all year is strike shit. Quan Martin been smacking niggas all year. All year. And does it always result in a turnover? No. But it did yesterday. It did yesterday. Had Quentin Johnson out there seeing 4 people. And I don't think it was much more to talk about in the first half, to be honest, because the first half was that ugly. We still saw dudes running open. We saw corners falling off of each other, trying to run with routes, running over each other, getting picked by their own guys. We still saw some of that yesterday. We did. Then Joe Witt coached the second half like his life depended on it, in my honest opinion. Yeah, I know that the Chargers were down to that 5th string lineman. They could have stuck me out there at right guard. But Joe Witt knew that. And you know what he did? Start to blitz their motherfucking faces off. Sending pressure. Utilizing guys like Jordan McGee, whose speed is evident, whose speed jumps off of the field. We need more snaps for Jordan McGee. I don't know how long I've been saying this on this channel. And what have the fans been saying? What are the 2 things or 2 of the biggest things that the fans have been harping on all week since we lost to the Atlanta Falcons? They said we needed to feed Bill more carries for the running back, especially Bill, specifically Bill. And they said we need to see Jordan McGee on the field more to have more speed at the second level of the defense. Well, Joe Witt read that timeline, y'all. And he listened. And I'm not here to say that fans are always right or fans always have the answers. But we had them yesterday. Even a dead clock is right twice a day. Not only sending pressures, we see Jordan McGee speed jump off on that blitz that he had where he didn't essentially make the sack, but he forced the quarterback into Johnny Newton for a sack. Then the tackle for loss on the play prior to Mikey Sainristil's interception on the goal line was probably the biggest defensive play outside of Quan Martin's forced fumble. He showed the speed and he showed the tackling ability. Yeah, one thing that we talked about with Jordan McGee in the preseason and things like that, the speed is evident. But he misses a lot of tackles. Well, guess what? He made that one. He made that one. And you know what comes? You know when you become a better tackler in the NFL with more reps. So we can't be expecting him, who's never really gotten a whole bunch of game reps, because Bobby Wagner's old selfish ass want to play 100% of the snaps. I still love Bobby Wagner, but somebody got to tell him he is not fucking suitable for third down in the 2025 NFL. And I know the box score watchers are going to talk about all the tackles that he had. That don't account for all the yards that he gives up in coverage, y'all. And I think that Bobby Wagner did have a super strong second half. Even though I can't remember one third down where he didn't get to his zone, where Keenan Allen got the first down. I think he had a super strong second half. But Bobby Wagner in no way, no shape or form should be playing 100% of the downs in 2025. Especially when you got Jordan McGee out there bitch flying around as much as he does. Because if Bobby Wagner goes down, oh, we're cooked. We're cooked. We're cooked. Not even because he's that of amazing of a player in 2025. But y'all putting so much on this man. Like, that's Gramps. Chill. That's Gramps. Chill. I've already mentioned the Mikey Sammerstill interception off of a Johnny Newton tip pass on the goal line, which would have brought the Los Angeles Chargers, back into a field goal game. Dorrance Armstrong had 2 sacks, back to his one sack per game pace, back to his 17 sack season pace. Von Miller had 1.5 sacks. Von Miller just loves playing the Chargers. From his days in the NFC West with the Broncos, he just loves playing the Chargers, bro. And then Johnny Newton had a sack as well. So the defense stepped up. I still think Frankie Louvu struggled. He cannot tackle in space to save his life this year. I don't know what it's like his legs is gone. It's like he's not as strong as last year. He did look like Umaga tackling Keenan Allen on that one play in the second half, but that was just 2 old niggas in the open field against each other. I've been trying to tell y'all about Javon Kinlaw. I've been trying to tell y'all about Javon Kinlaw since March. Javon Kinlaw is so much better than John Allen, it's not even funny. And when you remember that we have him at $5 million less per year, oh shit. I mean, you want to go hug Adam Peters, bro. We see him eating up double teams and still making tackles. Because he's built like a fucking garbage truck with arms. John Allen just didn't have that girth and tonnage anymore. Pause. We needed that on the defensive line to pair with a guy like Daron Payne. And now you see Johnny Newton getting back into the swing of things, looking somewhat, I ain't going to say all the way, looking somewhat like the prospect that we, were presented to drafting when he came out of Illinois last year in that 2024 draft. And the last thing that I really wanted to touch on is that 2024 draft. I think this was a win. I think Bill was the biggest reason that we won this game. Jalen Daniels a close second. But Jalen Daniels is a part of that 2024 draft, which I argue would be third. I've already talked about